please call 702-844-2019 or visit crystalracingfire.org today. That's 702-844-2019. Hey everyone, it's Joey. Good day, everyone. Talking to our YouTube channel here. Thank you very much for being here. Basic NFL show today. NFL teams, NFL playoffs, NFL coaching carousel. That's what we're doing. If you're watching us later in the day, if you're not live, remember the show's live noon to 2 Pacific, 3 to 5 Eastern. I think of it as an evening drive show back east. We cover all sports. Everything you want to talk about, we cover here. Good afternoon, everyone. My UNLV coffee cup today. Rebels. Yeah. Hey. What do you want to talk about today? What do you think's a hot topic? I got my monologue ready to go, but we're kind of in this hold pattern in the NFL with all these coaches. We're in a massive hold pattern, which isn't great for radio when you got to just sit around and wait, but that's where we're at. Listen to Raider Nation Radio from anywhere on the Raiders app or at lvsportsnetwork.com. Never miss another show. Stream us live or listen to past podcasts 24/7 at lvsportsnetwork.com. This is Raider Nation Radio 920. All right, let's get this going.
You're listening to the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound up and react for over 20 years.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio, your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years. And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, JT, as we're ready to go today. Hope everybody's having a fabulous day. Wednesday, January 15th, 2025, and we're exactly 25, that's Fred Biletnikoff's number, 25 days away from the Super Bowl. 25 days from the Super Bowl, and we'll be broadcasting live, some of us here live from Radio Row in New Orleans, as we get ready for that trip coming up around the corner here. We're just talking NFL every day. If there's breaking news in other sports, come here. We got the college football national championship game on Monday, Notre Dame v. Ohio State. I'd like to talk about that with you. I got opinions on that, but we are in the middle of a holding pattern, and that is the focus of the monologue, brought to you by PTs, 5 to 7, midnight to 2, the best happy hour in town. Get on out there to a PT's or a Sierra Goal, Sean Patrick, and I love the Great American Pub, where you'll find me on 215 in Buffalo from time to time. They did a beautiful job opening up that venue here. So we're in a holding pattern. Normally, I'm never in a holding pattern in radio. I am now. We're looking for a quarterback, a coach, and a GM for the Las Vegas Raiders. That's it. Everybody's guessing, wondering what's going to happen. We kind of get an idea of everybody who's going to be interviewed along the way, the GM candidates, the coaching candidates. But now it's getting tricky. Now, for me, it's getting tricky because the Raiders want to go big. And as I said to you from the beginning of this search, they've always wanted to go big because Tom Brady now has his eyeballs on this, and he wants to go big. Everybody's saying that, from Adam Schefter to Vinnie Bonsignore. Vinnie will join us at 1 o'clock. Levi Edwards from the Raiders digital team at 12:35 Pacific time. Also, Johnny Katz will join us from the entertainment side of Vegas coming up here in a little bit. But what's happening now is everyone around the NFL knows that the Raiders' job looks different because Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce will let go a couple days apart. They both had reasons to be here and stay here. You could have said Antonio Pierce didn't have the quarterback or didn't have an elite quarterback and he had all the injuries, and that would be fair to give him one more year. They decided not to do that. And the same thing with Tom Telesco, who drafted Brock Bowers, Jackson Powers-Johnson, DJ Glaze. All in all, a pretty good draft. And Tom did one thing that I want to mention again, which is going to benefit the new GM. Tom Telesco spent some money. Once he saw this team and this team lose to Carolina, and this team struggle on the path of losing, he wasn't going to dump money into this. He moved Devontae Adams, which was a necessity. He got a third-round pick for that. And what he did is he held on to the money. He didn't go out spending it out of control, thinking, I don't think Tom thought he was not going to be here and lose his job. I think Tom was very prudent and frugal with the money. He said, I'm going to be back here next year. I got to have this money. I got all this money. I want to go shopping next year because the team wasn't very good this past season. So the new GM, if it's John Spytek or someone else out there, is going to have a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of draft picks, but they got to figure out what is going to be the vision of who's left or what the scouting department looks like. What's the vision this year? We don't know. So we're in a holding pattern. Who's going to be the coach? Well, it seems like Ben Johnson is the target, and he is the target number one. He is the priority number one, which sounds good. I think every Raider fan that I've talked to, there's a few out there saying he's too young, he's unproven. Well, get over it. Most guys in their 30s are young and unproven. But that's the type of coach you want if you want the next Sean McVay, if you want the next Kevin O'Connell, if you want a coach that you know is going to be good and be around a long time and does a lot of things really well on one side of the ball, it's going to be Ben Johnson. We don't know how Ben Johnson runs a meeting as a head coach. He's never done it before. We don't know how he runs a practice when it's his and he's delegating to others. We don't know what his vision is on special teams. We know nothing. We just have an idea of how aggressive of a play caller is, all the exotic plays they run. I mean, they throw the ball to the offensive line in Detroit. They go for it on fourth down. They got balls in Detroit. They go for it. It's no check down Charlie. It's no JT in section 132 screaming, why are we checking down on 3rd and 11? We got Brock Bowers now. Let's throw it 12 yards. No, they don't do that in Detroit with Ben Johnson. They attack, they attack, they attack. I think Raider fans want an attacking offense. I do. Been waiting a long time for one. Since John Gruden. I thought Josh McDaniels would have been unbelievable at that. But for whatever reason, he didn't run those plays like he ran in New England as much. Or maybe he didn't have the talent to do it with Jimmy Garoppolo. Luke Getsy, the same thing. Luke Getsy came in, wanted to do some things. You don't think Luke Getsy knew that if he didn't get the offense going, he was going to get fired? He didn't make it very long because the Raiders didn't have a very good team. A lot of people lost their jobs because of the results on the field. So with Ben Johnson, the combination of Johnson and Spytek, wow, people are talking about that would be like golden. That would be unbelievable. Okay, I agree with you. Spytek worked with Brady, goes back to Michigan with him, was part of the architect team that put together the Tampa Bay most recent Super Bowl with Tom Brady. He seems like the guy. He seems like the front runner for that job, and Ben Johnson seems to be the front runner. So that's what we have today. And we know that Pete Carroll is now interviewing more. And this is where it gets tricky. And this is where I want to hear from you on this, because you know you can't make a decision on Ben Johnson until after they get eliminated, which could be after the Super Bowl. That is a risky game to play. That you better have that guy, if that's your guy, because all the other deck chairs, musical chairs, someone's going to be sitting in those other chairs. So if you want to go for Ben Johnson, you got to get him. And that's where we're at, we would think. Now, am I hearing other things? I'm not hearing much because it's a real tight-knit group inside the building, and there's no leaks, and there's no one coming out after a 4-hour meeting telling everybody this is what we're doing. Everybody's keeping it close to the vest. I'm assuming that's Mark Davis and Tom Brady wanting to do it that way. The room is getting tighter and smaller. Mark really listens, and he's listening, I would hope, to people around the league, people he trusts, alumni, friends. But we know it's a Tom Brady era now that's about to begin, and Tom Brady was brought in for this reason. So everybody should be good with that and embrace it. If you don't like it, I get it. If you don't like it, you want to wait and see, do that. I can't wait and see. I have to do another hour and 50 minutes of talk radio today in an absolute holding pattern. Absolute holding pattern where everybody that comes in here is assuming something, and I don't have facts. I don't have a box score. I don't have box scores. I don't have numbers, and I'm a numbers guy when it comes to sports. I like to look at numbers in the stock market, all the stuff I do every morning before the show. But when I get in here and I got no numbers to look at, what do? So I'm assuming it's Ben Johnson. He's going to be a really good pick. If they feel like they got him, if they feel like he's the guy, they got him, okay, then that's going to be stealth. That's the type of stuff where a couple of winks and a couple of nods, you feel like you got him, you're good. You're not going to get, You're not going to be in a bad situation where you lose them right at the end. You don't want to be in a situation where you lose them. Oh, my God, that would stink if you think you have them and you lose them, and that's happened before. And now we have some new sharks in the water, if you want to use a fishing analogy. You know, guys on radio use divorce analogies. They've been divorced a few times. They use their divorce analogies. I'm lucky I don't have to do that. I'll give you a fishing analogy. If you believe that Ben Johnson is on the hook and he's a whale, you got him on the hook. You got to get him in the boat. You got to get him in the boat. Okay, you hooked him. Whatever fish it is, you better start reeling it in. You got to get it in the boat. And if you ever go fishing, you know, a lot of times you got it hooked and you're trying to reel it in and boom, it's gone. The line breaks and it's gone because something happens that you do not foresee. That's why it's interesting on Pete Carroll. If you know you got Pete, if Pete was in there, he blew it away, assuming he had a good interview, and you know you got Pete. Do you want to get Pete now so you know you got him? Because I think Pete Carroll will be really good. Why not? Or do you want to wait for the biggest fish out there, the biggest marlin, the biggest fish, and reel it in and win the contest? And it seems like that's what the Raiders hopefully want to do. They want to get the best for the organization. And if their opinion, led by Tom Brady, and of course, answering to Mark Davis, if they come through all of this and they believe by vetting Ben Johnson, he's the best guy at this time for the Raiders, we'll all get behind it. I will. And you roll your eyes. JT will. Wow, yeah, I do. That's what I do. I'm a loyal guy. You're going to hit me up for being loyal? You're going to troll me for being loyal? I'm loyal. I want this to work. I want it to work for everybody here. And Ben Johnson makes the most sense. But now you're hearing people chirp on these morning shows and these debate shows about why would you want to go to the Raiders? I heard that today. Why would you want to go to the Raiders? Raiders don't have a quarterback. Yeah, they do. They have Aiden O'Connell. They have him to the side. He's okay. Aiden's okay. Aiden's not elite. He's not great. Aiden's right where he needs to be. He's played a lot under really tough circumstances, and he's learned a lot. He did. He learned a lot. He's had Josh McDaniels, Luke Getsy, Scott Turner, Norv Turner. Say what you will about all those guys. They're pretty sharp, all of them, when it comes to offense. And he's been in all those meeting rooms, and he's done it there, and Aiden's okay. But we're all starting to realize that a quarterback is necessary to make this job attractive. Because believe me, Ben Johnson isn't taking this job probably for Aiden O'Connell or Carter Bradley. Okay, he's got to have a plan to come in on what they're going to do to get a quarterback either in free agency or drafting. I mean, I saw 2 mock drafts today that had Shador dropping to number 6. And I said, whoa. I said, dropping a 6? I thought Shador was going 1 or 2. I thought Raider Nation wanted to lose every game to get Shador at number 1. Now I'm seeing on mock drafts he's at number 6. Well, did you see the quarterback play so far in the playoffs? God, it stinks. Have you been watching the college football playoffs? Did you see Oregon's quarterback? Penn State's quarterback? This is garbage. At least in this run of the college football playoffs, I'm sitting on my couch wanting to turn the channel on and watch another edition of Landman. I'm like, why am I watching this? They're handing off on every play and checking down. And then Shador and Cam Ward, the 2 best quarterbacks, didn't even make the playoff, and both of them had a chance to make the playoffs. I mean, they did. Shador had a chance to make the playoffs when the season got going, and Cam Ward, Miami was in the playoffs for most of the year. He didn't play well down the stretch. So we don't know who Ben Johnson wants. But what is floating around the media, which seems to be, I wouldn't say accurate because it's not my reporting, but as Adam Schefter talked about earlier today on McAfee, you know, Ben Johnson did not want Jaden Daniels. He could have had the Washington Commanders job. And here's what we know about Ben Johnson there. This guy seems to be really buttoned up. He's not the guy who's like, oh, I'll take the job no matter what. I don't care who your roster is. Just give me the job. Please, I want to be a coach. No, he could have been the coach of the Commanders. He could be the coach of the Bears right now. Right now could be the coach of the Bears, technically, with a wink, wink. He's vetting everybody else. Ben Johnson is vetting everybody else to see what they have. What is their vision? What's the owner's vision? And now this owner, Mark Davis, has Tom Brady, part of his vision mixed in with his. I think that's pretty cool. So let's assume for a moment. We're not going to guarantee anything because Vinny's going to come up at the top of the hour. Let's have a conversation here. Let's assume for this next 10 minutes, the Raiders get Ben Johnson and John Spytek as the GM. Wow. That will break the internet. No matter what any negative Raider fan says or any other fan, you lose. If it's Ben Johnson and Spytek coming in together, everybody around the league says that is a dream team. That's the quote they're using, the dream team, if those two come together. If it's Pete Carroll and Robert Saleh, along with an offensive coordinator who's really good, well-named, that's a win. After that, I have to do my job, and I have to look at what could be the other options. Now, the big thing in Dallas over the last 24 hours is Mike McCarthy being released because he's a really good coach. You might not like him now because he hasn't won since he's been in Green Bay. He's a good coach. Mike Tomlin's a good coach. They're all pretty much like when you get Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy, Sean Payton, right? All those guys are good coaches. Stop with this. They're not good coaches. They're all really good. Okay, you have Andy Reid on a higher level, rightfully so. Jim Harbaugh, very good coach. Do you put him on in a league higher than Pete Carroll? I don't. I don't put Jim Harbaugh higher up than Pete Carroll. No way. I can prove it. College record, they both competed in college, and pro record. And Pete Carroll coaching in 2 Super Bowls and winning 1. But then what happens if something comes out of nowhere? Is Aaron Glenn going to go to New Orleans or Jacksonville? Well, he's going to make his decision if they go to the Super Bowl in Detroit. He's the defensive coordinator after the Super Bowl. You're going to have 2 coaches, if I'm right, and Detroit wins the Super Bowl or goes to the Super Bowl, that the day after the Super Bowl, they're going to be on a jet for a press conference somewhere in New Orleans, Las Vegas, Jacksonville, wherever it's going to be. Right after the Super Bowl press conference next day. They might stay for the party at night. They're on the plane. They're going to the city they're going to work for. I told you about a month ago, and I didn't think Antonio Pierce would be gone. I did not. But I thought about a month ago there'd be 6 head coaches with 6 jobs available. I nailed it to the number. Okay, well, these are the jobs we have. Now we add the Cowboys. So what's the difference between the Cowboy job, the Raider job, the Chicago job, the Jets job, Jacksonville, and New Orleans? When you look at all these jobs, they're all world-class. World-class. They're NFL head coaching jobs. But the issue becomes when you have that many job openings right now, you have a lot of coaches, including coaches on the Raiders staff, who are not going to be back. And they're all looking to hook up with one of those teams. Well, multiply 6 jobs by maybe 12 coaches each. Do the math on your computer. How many guys are looking for jobs today? We're talking about linebacker coaches, defensive back coaches, quality control coaches. They're all sitting around. I've watched this. A really good former Raider coach was my neighbor. I sat outside my backyard drinking beer with him. I know how this plan works. You got to plan ahead. You got to find out where you're going to go if you get let go. If your coach gets fired, he's not getting another head coaching job in the next cycle. You got to get away from that guy and get to another team and get a job. And that's what's happening here. Who's Ben Johnson's staff going to be? Or Aaron Glenn? The Detroit Lions staff right now, they better get a team photo. None of those guys are going to be there. Half of them are going with Aaron Glenn on the defensive side. The other half are going with Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell's going to look around after the Super Bowl and go, oh, my God, I got to go hire coaches. Hey, let me call the guy from the Raiders who was let go. Let me call the guy from the Saints who was let go. I mean, this is like coaching chaos right now. So we're all trying to sit here and figure out this week what you would like. So that's, again, the topic of today. We have nothing to add, which isn't great, but I just gave you a bunch of opinions what I have. And I thought today's topic would be pretty important. How concerned are you as a Raider fan that this is getting risky? What I mean by risky is there's Jerry Jones is in play now, man. Woo! Jerry Jones is making phone calls to coaches. Hold on. Jerry Jones on line 1. If you're a coach, get your ass in the seat. Mr. Jones is on the phone. He wants to talk to you, and he's got cash, and he wants you to be the coach. He's in play. New York, the number 1 media market with the Jets, in play. Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, the best quarterback available for a new coach, in play. Raiders, very sexy job right now. It is. Tom Brady's involved. Everything's brand new. Everything's still brand new, right out of the boxes. gorgeous facility, gorgeous stadium. You get Brock Bowers and Max Crosby. That's an attractive job. That roster's not bad for the Raiders, but Levi Edwards is going to join us a bit here. We're going to go through who needs to be signed or not. Man, the decisions that the Raiders got to make on the – how would you like to be a player for the Raiders now, not knowing the future and you want your contract for next year? Who are you calling right now to say – you're not calling Tom Brady. You're not getting him on the phone. So how are you figuring out that you're going to be here or your contract's going to be there? Well, you got an agent, and your agent's working for you, and you feel like you're coming back. If you're Robert Spillane, if you're Trayvon Merrick, you feel pretty good about your position here, and you might have opportunity somewhere else. So the number is 702-365-9200. I'm specifically asking the best of the Raider fans who join us, how do you feel? Where is your nerve level at with the timing of all this? Assuming, for radio purposes only, there's a good chance we're going to get Ben Johnson, but we might not. And knowing the timeline, not being able to talk to the coaches now in the playoffs here as they're moving forward, Steve Spagnuolo, for example, with Kansas City, his window now come and goes. What do you think about where the Raiders stand on the timing of all this? Do you like the fact that it's kind of going slow? There's a lot of new names popping up every day, and Vinnie will go through the names with us. Or are you a little bit anxious that you don't think the deal is set already? 702-365-9200 if you want to get in. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. And, I purposely think the Raiders, some years when the Raiders did Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, that was a shock to a lot of people. There were a lot of people like, wait a second, that wasn't what we thought. And then it came on us really quick. I mean, I got a call one morning and it was on. I'm like, all right, that kind of is interesting. They're going down this Patriot way. Dave Ziegler, young GM coming from Denver and the Patriots, pretty sharp guy. Josh McDaniels, a redeeming coach after Denver with all his play calling success. I kind of get where they're going. I understood it. It didn't work out. And then when we looked at what we just saw with Antonio Pierce, Antonio Pierce bringing in a lot of older coaches like Marvin Lewis, Tom Coughlin, Joe Philbin, kind of understood it. Norv coming in to help his son. I got it. We're trying to help out Antonio Pierce, first-time coach, first time ever, doing his first training camp, first everything for Antonio Pierce. He gave it everything he had, but that was a work in progress. Now they know what just happened. Okay, Mark, Tom Brady obviously aware of this. They know that what's happened so far in Vegas with Gruden, Mayock, Bisaccia, right? They've seen what happened with Ziegler and McDaniels, and they looked at Telesco and Antonio Pierce. Wow, we're talking 5 years, man, right? 6 years. We're not talking over 30 years. We're just talking here. They've seen all of it. And there's less people in the building who are involved in that decision now. And there's a new guy there looking at all this whose only thing he did was ever do is compete and win. And he's going to put his handprint somewhere on the map. Quarterback, I'm going to help hire the head coach because he's an offensive guy who I'm tight with or respects me. That's all that's happening now. Is the Brady influence, and how big is the Brady influence? And everybody I'm interviewing, I'm asking them the same question, and they all say the same thing, big. Brady's got a big influence. Why wouldn't he? That sounds about right. But most fans here are confused. And I failed you. I've personally failed you if you're still this confused. You shouldn't be. You should all be sounding off like you got a pair. I'm trying to wake the hell and get this place alive again. As every other team's playing in the playoffs and every other fan base is ripping the roof off trying to get the best coach available. I got to get the Raider fans going, which is what I do. And we'll get you going here. It's really the same show. Who do you want? Why do you want them? What type of team do you want going forward? I'm really big on the changing of the guard of this offense. That's my big hot button. And if you've known me, if you've talked to me in person over a Modelo, if you've met me at the Torch, if you sat next to me at the games, you know that I am ready for a rebirth of this offense with Brock Bowers now. Whoever it's going to be, we are going to be on the attack. Because we're in the AFC West with Herbert, who's always in the shotgun, Patrick Mahomes, and this guy Bo Nix is much better than I thought. Oh, my God. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he'd be this good. Who's ever coming in here better drop a bomb and say everything you're used to at Allegiant Stadium, get your popcorn. We're opening this thing up. We're open for business. We are going to be the greatest show on turf. I got Bowers. I got 2 or 3 offensive linemen I like. I got another tight end. I got some really good receivers. But it's go time. Everybody out who don't want to run this offense, everybody who wants to run the offense, you stay. But we're running something dramatically different. We are going to be an ass-kicking offense. We are not going to play conservative. We are not going to play scared. We are not going to check down. We're not going to hand it off out of the shotgun at the goal line into the pile. We're changing everything. We're going big. And we're going to get the pieces that can fit the new head coach's vision to do that. But, all due respect to Scott Turner and Norv Turner, God, I have the ultimate respect for them, especially Norv. I was at Troy Aikman's Hall of Fame induction when all it was 2/3 was about Norv. And I have a lot of respect for them. But this organization needs to get with the times on offense, period. They're on defense. This defense can play with anybody. Oh, we lost Christian Wilkins, Malcolm Kuntz, Marcus Epps before we had our first sip of Tito's at the first game. Those guys are all gone. We didn't stand a chance. We didn't stand a chance. We had 6 starters out on defense the whole year. Jacorian Bennett's out. Nada Hobbs is out. Everybody's hurt. No more. Let's get everybody healthy. Let's bring in new players. Let's sign only the ones who have proven on tape that they deserve to be here. And then defense will be fine. No matter what the vision of the defense is, it'll be fine. Defense will be good. We don't have to take a call on defense. But the offense, someone better light a match and get this thing going. Because you're watching the playoffs here in Matthew Stafford and Jaden Daniels. If you're watching what's left in the playoffs, man, it is go, 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 go. And Ben Johnson seems to be the best of all that. We're going to go and we're going to do what Al Davis wanted to do. We are going to dictate what we want to do. We're going to throw it deep. We're going to do whatever we want. We're going to play up tempo and we're going to play fast. That's what I see with Detroit. That's what I see with Detroit. So that encourages me. And I've seen plenty of Pete Carroll teams. If he's the head coach, everything will be fine under Pete. He won't come here to lose. I can promise you that. That's the monologue. That's what I do. Hope you enjoyed that. That's what I do. It's not a 6-minute stand-up set. It's 27 minutes of hardcore sports led by the Raider Nation. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see everybody here. Did you all come here for coaching news, coaching guessing? Smash the like button, please, and subscribe. Thank you. What else is going on? You like what I said about offense? Again, I try to talk Raiders, but I'm really not talking Raiders. I'm talking everybody. Up tempo, faster offense, faster offense. What's that? He's going to call us. I'm going to have him call us. Yep.
Vinnie, same thing?
Yeah, Vinnie, I'll have him call in. Yep. I don't think we took a phone call in 2 days. I mean, the place is dead. No one's vibing, man. Everybody's just chilling. Everybody's in my YouTube feed, man. That's where they're at. Yeah.
Everything's going.
All right.
It's a long family heritage that we proudly carry on. From our father, to our family, to the expert legal team at the Castro.
How's everyone doing in here? Everyone good? I feel bad for AP. Couldn't have success. He could have had success, but everything was stacked against him. A lot was stacked against him. Snow Raider, he called on Monday. He did. Yep. Yeah, that's my fraternity. I was the president of that fraternity. Anybody want to put in the chat first where I went to college? I'll get you something for that. I'll have my son mark this. Where did I go to college? Where was I the president of the DKs at what university?
Call on the hotline?
No, I'll have him call the regular month. Yeah. University of Hard Knocks. That is close. Yeah, Big D. Geneseo State University. Big D gets in there. He knows. He read the book, The Handoff. Geneseo State University. Albert says, I'm pumped for Ben. I'm just pumped for news, you know. I don't know Ben Johnson at all. I didn't know Josh McDaniels at all. I didn't know Rich Bisaccia at all. I get behind the coach, whoever becomes the coach.
That's right. The seminar is Thursday, February 6th at the Santa Fe Station Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Weight loss seminars at 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminars at 8 p.m. Registration is 30 minutes before the seminar. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com.
Patty Davidson here from BetMoneyHoney.com. Have you ever felt like the odd man out at a friend's house watching the game? After years in the sports betting industry, I can teach you.
Raider DNA is to go vertical. You better believe it is.
Fans with an understanding of the game. Plus, I can teach you how to place a bet on a game, which will completely change your perspective because you too can be a winner. Join me at BetMoneyHoney.com. That's BetMoneyHoney.com.
Hey everyone, it's Joey from Sky Diamonds in Town Square. We definitely
What time do you normally take the next break?
20 years ago. I believe in old school ways, honor and trust.
Usually like 45. Yeah, 45. 46, 47, any time in that range, you know.
We are the diamond experts. We have the largest selection of natural diamonds in Las Vegas. We will not be beat on price and quality, period. Come to Sky Diamonds and let us prove it to you.
I don't know. These quarterback, talking to all you guys on YouTube, this quarterback mock draft is changing. There's something brewing. I think some of these GMs are looking around, you know.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
Third down and 8 for the Raiders. First down came out of penalty. Can they get this through the air? O'Connell, he's scrambling, fires over the middle. Wide open, fires in the 40. Gets upfield 35. That's more like it. Right down at the Chargers 33. They pick up 20, and it's a first down for the Silver and Black.
Yeah, yes, JT. That's Jason Horowitz on the call, the voice of the Raiders. Levi Edwards will join us coming up in a little bit from the Raiders digital team. And Deshaun Reed put out a tweet on the Raiders hiring committee thus far. Owner Mark Davis, minority owner Tom Brady, minority owner Silver Lake CEO Egon Durbin, minority owner Discovery Land Company chairman Michael Melvin, and minority owner Nighthead Capital co-founder Tom Wagner. So as you're seeing here, who's in that committee now thus far, and that's the report here. As the New York Times says, Ben Johnson, the leader in the clubhouse, ? Might the Raiders have a GM? Minority owner Tom Brady could bump into some of the Raiders' top coaching and GM candidates before his broadcast this week. Well, this is all speculation. It's all speculation as we're sitting back here trying to figure out who's going to be who, what's going to happen. But Mark's changed up the committee. Mark's changed it up. Mark has the right to do that as the majority owner on what he's interested in, who he wants in the room. And that's interesting in life. I think I tell my sons that all the time. Who you have in the room when you make decisions is everything. I grew up and still have my dad. My dad's 86 years old. Any decision I make in my life, any decision that matters, it is my dad. Okay, I got people and I got friends and really great friends that I'll run something by. But when it comes to a big decision, my dad is the first guy I do. And my sons, I hope they do the same thing with me. When you're bouncing ideas off of other people, it's also could be a little bit bumpy along the way. When you're bouncing ideas off of people, it could get dicey because people push back and have different opinions. Could that be happening now? Of course it can. But from what it seems like, as The Athletic is reporting, and what we're reporting here, this is the 6th time in more than 13 years that Mark Davis has owned the team, and it's the 3rd time in 3 years that they're looking for both a general manager and a head coach. So what hasn't worked out has to change. And that's why there's new people in the room and people there, and they're discussing what they're going to do going forward. Let me get out to Robert, if we can bring him up first here. on Raider Nation Radio before Levi joins us. Robert, how are you? What do you say? Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty comfortable with it. If you think of all the choices we've made over the years, and how kind of bad they've been or how they haven't worked out, I'm willing to give it some time. I don't want to rush this. I want to get either, I'm fine with Ben Johnson, I'm fine with Carroll, but I just want to get it right for a change.
I would agree with you. The only pushback would be, well, what would happen if Carroll gets hired on Tuesday of next week and he's gone? And then you're just waiting on Johnson and you think you got Johnson. You would think that Pete Carroll would, if he wanted the Raider job and took another one, Pete Carroll would say, well, I'm going to take that job because I think the Raiders want Ben Johnson. That could be happening. We don't know if that's true, but that gets to the point where you better get the guy you want. And in this point, I think you're right. You got to be patient because Ben Johnson's still coaching.
I think if that should happen, that eventuality, I think there might be other choices of coaches that make it very deep in the playoffs. Then you're looking out for something like that. I mean, I don't want to let fear make the decision. I'm not in the room, but that's what I would counsel. Pick your course, go your course until it doesn't work, then build a new course.
Mm-hmm.
And if it takes time and we lose Carroll and we lose Johnson, or Johnson says I'm going to stay in Detroit, then we're going to have to look somewhere else. But we have to commit to something. We have to build it for change. I mean, I like Pierce. I knew it would take time, but they made the decision. They moved on. I think we have to commit to something and stick with it.
Yep. Thanks for the phone call. Very good phone call. That's someone who's calm, cool, collected, and is basically telling everybody, look, let's just do the right thing. Do the right thing and get it right. Well, that's always been the plan. Remember, that's always been the plan, to get it right whenever they hired other people. And that's why you want this to be the right moment at the right time. And Tom Brady, if he has something to add, and it turns out that this is the hire that ends up being the next coach for 10 years and brings the Raiders to Super Bowls, we'll remember the hire. We'll remember what happened, the wait, the buildup, and the fact that two good men lost their positions in Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco. It's all part of doing business. That is all part of doing business, is that when you're doing business, from time to time, there are hard, intense decisions. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, go around. Anybody who runs a Fortune 20 company. I watched Jamie Dimon on 60 Minutes and what he's doing with his job. Bankers. People got to make decisions. They're literally oil company executives. Whoever you are, you're making decisions that could make or break a company quickly. That's why there's always turnovers. That's why there's always a turnover in the NFL with these coaches, because everyone is hired with the position to do well. And Mark Davis is the type that he's going to watch what you do. He's going to watch what you're doing. He's going to give you some time. But if it completely is going the wrong way, Mark is going to move on from that. That's it. That's all that is. For people who say Mark is impatient, Mark wants to move quickly. Mark wants to make this team great. If he makes a hire and it didn't work out, he knows it's not working out. He's going to change. Now, in Detroit, they held on to Dan Campbell after it wasn't working. It worked out. Sometimes it works, other times it doesn't. Most owners have a quick trigger finger when their teams aren't winning. Levi Edwards joins us from Raiders headquarters, from the digital team. Great content that he has. Good to talk to you, my friend. Do you feel like this? You're a little bit different than I am. I'm sitting here in the middle of this coaching search, speculating, but you're looking at the roster, you and your team on the digital team, trying to figure out who's going to stay or who might go.
That is very true, and that's a very interesting thing for me to be looking at right now, because obviously we don't have a head coach or a general manager. And so once you have a coach in place and you have guys in place, then you understand kind of what their identity is, their tendencies of what they've done before in the past, and how they kind of want their team to be constructed. So until we get that in place, you don't really necessarily know what direction they want to go with the roster, who they want to retain, who they want to bring in, especially if it's a first-time head coach that we do, in fact, hire, where you kind of don't necessarily know what their identity is as of yet, because it's kind of, tied to whatever team they were coordinator for. So it's going to be really interesting. However, despite whoever's in place, whoever's not in place, there's guys on this roster whose contracts have expired that the Raiders are definitely going to want to keep, that could fit in any system regardless of coach.
All right, well, let's get into that. Give me one or two right out of the gate, and I'll catch up with you with my list on who you think should be priorities and their contract status and how important it is to bring them back. Give me a couple names.
The two names that I can give you off the top of my head is Robert Spillane and Trayvon Merrick, two guys on the defense that really stepped up and played some of their best football, if not their very best football of their NFL careers this past year. You have Robert Spillane, a guy who has really just done wonders within the Raiders defense, a guy that I believed was a pretty good linebacker when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he was conformed to this identity, being a third down linebacker, being a run stopping guy, not really having sideline speed or having the instincts. He comes here kind of on a prove it deal, and he proves that he is one of the better linebackers in the league, and he can start and he can be a 3-down guy. Same thing with Trayvon Merrick, a guy that had a lot of expectations coming out of college. He was the Jim Thorpe Award winner, and I think the first couple of years he was with the Raiders, he was using a very conservative space. He was a single high safety, a guy that, just make sure that you don't allow any big plays on you and do your job. But he really has been given a lot of flexibility in his role, especially when Marcus Epps went down. The way that you just saw him be used is someone that could play really anywhere in the secondary, and also a guy that could blitz at speed, really physical, good tackler. Really everything that you assumed that Trayvon Merrick was going to be when you drafted him is what you finally got to see this past year. And he's a part of a 2022 draft class or 21 draft class with a lot of guys that their contracts are up, and you're going to have to figure out, do I bring so-and-so back? You look at injury history, you look at a lot of the different things, their value. But those are two guys right there that the Raiders are definitely going to want to bring back, no matter who their defensive coordinator is or who their general manager is, who the head coach is. They're going to want those two guys back.
All right, the fact that they're unrestricted free agents, other teams could be interested in, and that is a bit of a concern to me because these are good players and other teams need good players. So, that's Captain Obvious stuff here, but these guys I think want to come back, but they'll have other options here. Another player in this category that I wanted to hit on was Nate Hobbs. I've been up and down with Nate. I think he's a good player when he's available, but he's injured a lot. And, I thought Nate would have been a guy that could play on the outside and the inside. He seems to be the type of player when he's healthy on the inside, he's attacking, he's a good player. But I haven't seen the consistency game in and game out. Evaluate him.
And that's exactly what I was alluding to when I, was just talking about you have other guys in that 21 draft class, but you have to look at injury history. And Nate Hobbs is one of those guys who, when healthy, probably one of the top 5, has potential to be a top 5 nickel corner in the league from what we saw his rookie year in his second season. So when he's healthy, when he's on the field, if he's available, I think he is a huge role within the Raiders defense or any defense, but you have to evaluate that and say, okay, well, this makes sense. Another guy in that draft class, along with Nate Hobbs, that you also have to take a deep look at is Malcolm Kuntz.
Yes.
Because Kuntz is a guy who, coming off of a career season, has 8 sacks, and then he goes through training camp, looks very good in training camp. Like, that's what really sucks for Malcolm Kuntz. Alongside Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, we were under the assumption that this was going to be one of the best defensive lines the Raiders have had in a long time. And he has a non-contract injury going into a contract year, going into a year where you expect for him to do really big things, especially with the attention that Max is going to get on the other side. And you just don't see that. So now you kind of set yourself up. You have to rehab. And now, once again, going into a contract year, you have to prove yourself. So these are two guys that you like what you've seen when you've seen it, but you kind of want to see more. But you are at a point now where it's like, okay, well, what do we do in terms of, do we bring him back? What kind of deal we give him? Is there someone else that we feel like is better that we can bring in? These are a lot of questions that you can't answer until you have a GM in place that really has an identity of what he wants to see on this team.
Levi Edwards is our guest from the Raiders digital team, Raider Insider. One more name, a restricted free agent where the Raiders could match if he gets an offer, is Isaiah Palomal. I wonder if Isaiah Palomal did enough to get a contract offer from another team out there and looking for a safety, and that number can be kind of raised up a bit and the Raiders will have to match, or if there are going to be no other takers around the league because he's kind of a Raider guy that was kind of on the bench and had an opportunity to play, and he's kind of a Raider guy for the Raiders to keep. What do you think about him?
I really do think that he likes Las Vegas. I think he enjoys playing for the Raiders more importantly than anything. And he's a guy that's been in the program, has kind of helped establish a culture here for years. A guy who's a UDFA and has really been able to kind of get out the mud, for what you say, and AFC Defensive Player of the Year or Player of the Week in Week 16. And so he's a guy that when you look at him, he has a large sample size of playing time this past season. And he is definitely your ideal prototypical size that you'd want for a safety, a 6'4", 220, a guy that, can really go. And so despite, whatever he put on the field this year for the Raiders, I think a lot of teams honestly are going to be looking at him. But I will say that the Raiders should probably prioritize bringing him back, especially with it being a restricted deal and then being able to match it, especially if you're uncertain about Marcus Epps, because Marcus is a guy who was your starting safety and then he gets hurt, and that's why Isaiah has the season that he has. So you have two guys there. Do you bring one back? Do you let one go? I don't know exactly how that's going to look, but I do think just in terms of what Isaiah has done on the field and also just his prototypical size and strength and what he adds to the field, I think teams are going to be interested to kind of put him in the same role that he's had here.
Levi Edwards is our guest. One more. I just want to have big picture question with you on the offense. And this is all assuming because there's going to be a new GM and a coach, and they're going to bring in their own players. Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer, Trey Tucker. Those are 4 guys out of 8 because you usually carry 2-3 tight ends and 4 wide receivers at least. All those guys should be back here, along with Jackson Powers Johnson, DJ Glaze, Colton Miller. I would assume he's not a free agent, and Colton's a really good player. I don't know where he is in his tenureship with the team, but he should be back. And then I don't see a running back who's a lock to stay. I don't see one. I mean, they could have a completely different running back room, and then a wide receiver 1. And then the quarterback will just leave it with Aiden for now. So do you think there's going to be a lot of players coming back, Levi, on offense? And other than a number 1 wide receiver and maybe a number 1 running back, that Raider offense is going to be pretty much set?
It really – a lot of those names that you mentioned in terms of Colton Miller, DJ Glaze, Jackson Powers Johnson, a lot of those guys, that's going to be very important because when you mention this offense, hypothetically speaking, no matter what coach comes in, you look at what weapons the Raiders have and you look at what's in place. And really the best way to maximize on those weapons, and especially Aiden, if he does or does not start, whoever the quarterback may be, not assuming, you have to have a good offensive line. You have to be right in the trenches. And that's another thing, even with, going out and grabbing another running back, no matter who it is or how you acquire them, you have to have a good offensive line. And I think whoever comes in, when you're trying to fortify your identity for this team, you have to do it in the trenches. And I think bolstering the offensive line by any means necessary is what's going to help the team, immediately, especially with whatever other guys are going to be brought in. I do think that the 2 positions that are probably the strongest in this year's draft, when you look at it holistically, are going to be offensive line and running back. So those are 2 positions that you're going to have to really evaluate a lot and really hit on to really bring an immediate presence to this Raiders locker room. Even with receiver is a little, you've seen a lot of other teams in the league, get by with a couple of really good, receiver 2, receiver 3s, and they all if you play your role and you do what you're supposed to do, that's something that the Raiders don't necessarily have to go out and get right now, especially with Brock Bowers being as dominant as he's been. But offensive line and running back are 2 positions that the Raiders really have to look at moving forward, because that's
absolutely
really help them.
Absolutely, running back especially. Levi, thank you. I know you're on hold and on. You're one of the guys I count on. Something's going to happen here pretty quick, Coach, GM, and all that. We'll talk to you after that. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
That's Levi Edwards. Check out all his work at Raiders.com. We are brought to you by the DeCastroverde Law Group. Alex and Orlando DeCastroverde. The brothers win. The brothers have your back. Go to brotherswin.com. And if you get into an accident, 702-222-9999. Vinnie Bonsignore at the top of the hour. Nicely done. Nicely done.
No, we got Thor and Summerlin.
Oh, good. I'll take him. You go by Joseph or Joe?
Joe.
Joe. Good. All right. Yeah, I want to talk about other NFL games. Give me some upsets. Give me some gambling. Like who you picking in an upset with these college football playoffs. I'm not talking DJ Glaze, who's a great guy, for another hour, man. I gotta get into what's big, man. The NFL, man. The NFL playoffs. So anybody got an upset? I'm gonna go through some NFL games coming up here. Anybody got an upset in these games? I'm looking at the lines. We have the divisional round.
Buffalo is an underdog for the first time at home.
What's that?
Buffalo's an underdog for the first time ever at home.
Wow. In the playoffs ever, or what do you mean?
Maybe it was the playoffs that I saw.
Earn an entry for every 50 base points earned playing with your True Rewards card.
18 home playoff games since 1970 for the Bills. Bills have never been a home underdog in the playoffs since 1970.
Great cities are built on strong foundations. The skilled members of Laborers Local 872 never stop.
It's only a point and a half. It's only a 1.5. So it's not like it's like a 3-pointer or 3.
The solar fields powering the economy and everything in between to work safely. Laborers Local 872 is modernizing the Nevada workforce and building a global city. The future is union strong. Hi, I'm Rob, owner of Desert Springs Pools. You may not know this, but we've been around since 1994, and we built over 10,000 pools right here in Las Vegas. At Desert Springs Pools.
All right, this will be a relatively short segment. We'll do that. Hey, everybody, got a quick announcement at 2:15, 5:15 Eastern. I'm doing a live stream with Damon Bruce. Damon Bruce of the Bay Area. He's got his live stream. I'll have mine. We're going to go toe-to-toe. I think that's going to be pretty cool. I work well with him. So keep it here. Damon Bruce on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel. If you're subscribed or not, please do. And we're going to do that right after the show. So I'm going to fire up the machine. Right after I get off the air, I'm going to go home and going to do that. Like working, man. Could go home and do what? Might want to watch TV. Going to do some content. So we got that coming up. The Oakland Roots soccer team. All right.
It's the same bus the players use, so you can ride like a pro. M-Ride will take you round trip from Circle of the Pops to Allegiant Stadium or T-Mobile Arena. No more hassle parking, sitting in traffic, or waiting in long taxi or rideshare lines. M-Ride it, and you'll get in and out quickly. Reserve your ride at mridelb.com. Use promo code BRICK. That's mridelb.com. Promo code.
Man, there's a lot of coaches interviewing today, man. There's a lot of coaches interviewing today. Liam Cohen with the Jaguars.
Value for my money. Give me the facts. Don't give me the sales pitch. These are my facts. I have been in the diamond business 31 years. I am a GIA graduate gemologist and certified gemologist.
Also, I lost another good friend who passed away yesterday, Cook E. Jar. If you Google Cook E. Jar, it's fun play on words, Cookie Jar, but Cook E. Jar was a Vegas lounge performer, icon. All the lounge performers would go see him, Tom Jones. I mean, he knew Elvis back in the day. This guy is special. When I moved to Vegas, he was a big lounge act, and we would go at Sports Fan Radio Network, like 10 guys on the weekends, get a bunch of beers and watch him perform, and he did covers and kind of a character. You had to know Cookie Jar to love him, and he passed away, found out yesterday. So kind of have a heavy heart. You know, losing Pete, he was great friends with Pete Rose, so to lose Pete Rose and Cookie Jar was tough.
Brought to you by Commissariat Tequila, the official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
Crosby had pulled back towards the middle of the line, and he got his right paw right in the face of Davis Mills to force a fourth down.
Turn it up. People are excited. They want a new head coach, a GM. They want a quarterback. Raider Nation will unite. The greatness of the Raiders is in its future. Yeah, you got to believe it. Sometimes you need a reset, not a rebuild. You need a reset, and that time is now. I'm excited about it. Raider Nation is. Let's see what happens going forward. All right. Hey, very quickly, before I get out to Thor, before the top of the hour, we lost an icon in Vegas yesterday. Cookie Jar passed away. Cook E. Jar. Everybody in Vegas knows who Cook was. One of the greatest lounge acts of all time. Tom Jones, he knew Elvis Presley. All the lounge acts would go see Cook, Cookie Jar, when he's performing on the Strip. When I started here in Vegas in 1996, moved out here by myself, went to work at Sports Fan Radio Network. Cookie Jar was our weekend. We'd go see him, get a bunch of beers, sit at his lounge act. He knew all of us because he listened to sports radio. I've interviewed him many times. He listened to my show often. I'd get texts, calls from him. He was a sports gambler. He was just a great, great guy. Johnny Katz will join us next hour to talk about the legacy of Cookie Jar, who passed away. If you're in Vegas, there's going to be something for this guy. This guy was iconic, and he had a big impact on my life. He gave me the first look of Vegas when I got to Vegas back in the day. Thor in Summerlin. What's going on, Thor? How you doing today?
JT was happening today, brother. I'm
Oh.
actually in Resorts Road right now, not Summerlin, but it's all good. Let's go. You know, JT, the new coaching regime, whatever it ends up being, I am very nervous about getting it done, but also not at all nervous. Like, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I know over, we're really positive people, me and you, as far as the Raiders go. So I know over 20 years of weird decisions and weird happenings with coaching, that it can start to wear on us. But I personally want Ben Johnson. I want youth. But you have to, as long as you come in, whoever comes in has to come in with a clear and concise plan around the players who are there, the players they plan on drafting, the type of offenses they can run, things of that nature. Like, don't try to run zone blocking schemes if your running backs are suited for power. Don't never throw the ball deep when you have Trey Tucker, who should be running.
You got it. Thor, I got to run. I'm up against it. Thor, I hate to cut you off. Thor, I hate to cut you off. The music's up here. I took you to the top of the hour. I owe you more next time. Thank you. I like it. The scheme's got to be better. It's got to be unique. It's got to be fast. Vinnie Bonsignore joins us. He's got a lot of information. You don't want to miss this.
Plumbers, HVAC, DIYers, and construction pros. McFadden Industrial Hardware has everything you need for your next project.
All right. Don't sleep on the Rams. Step up, son. Yeah, sometime I wasn't on Thor. That was on me. I didn't manage the clock well. That was me. Went a little late there. Lions OC Ben Johnson says he spoke with Tom Brady on the field before the Packers game. First time he met him. Brady will be calling the Commanders-Lions game this weekend. Wow. What else, everybody? What else is going on? Everything good?
They're not from around here. If they think our capital is Las Vegas, they're not from around here. I'm Richard Davis.
All right. Brady was in the silver and black last game when he was reporting on TV. I did not notice that.
No one knows the matter like we do. If you've been injured, call me, Richard Harris.
Hit the like button if you can. We got 230 people in here, 80 likes. We should have 230 likes. Let's knock that out if we can. Everybody subscribed, I hope. Appreciate it. Most of you people are subscribers. Appreciate that. We're going to use, I got a number for you. You got a pen? Be right back.
testosterone levels, they help you turn up and stay lean. And it's made a difference for you. Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. And working in the gym and in the bedroom. They still need to uncomfortable bottles for people to try first. Yeah, you just send a text. Text PEC to 321 now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermal, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text PEC to 321321. That's PEC to 321321. What is GMTVCC? It's a mouthful. The translation for GMTVCC.com is Give Me the Bin Classic and Collector Cars. It's a brand new buying division of Give Me the Bin, but it's for classic and collector cars. Experienced pro buyers will appraise an offer of your 1970 Hemi Cuda or
I know your
1980
big
Spotty Mustang.
boxing.
Yep.
The Canelo and Terrence Crawford.
Ooh, did that set today?
September.
Wow. Wow. Here.
Yeah.
Looking for your next adventure on the road?
I'm surprised did that just happen today?
I saw it Monday.
Selection of brand new Toyotas.
All right, that's big.
To fit your lifestyle and your budget. Whether it's the rugged Tacoma, the adventurous RAV4, or the powerful Tundra, at Finley Toyota, we make financing easy and stress-free, no matter your credit situation. Finley Toyota, driven to excellence. At the Valley Auto Mall,
Yeah, that's big.
FinleyToyota.com.
And I'm normally a UFC guy, but I might have to get a try to get a
Oh, that'd be a good one. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Canelo versus Bud Crawford. God, it should have happened so many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
JT the Brick Show, brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town, 5 to 7 p.m. and midnight.
Sit around
to
2 after
2
we give him a call.
Yeah, right when I get going here.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Vinnie Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. He takes him off the middle. Brady's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 20 years.
Over to the 35. Racing to the 20. 10. Touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2 of the show, which I'm actually excited about today. I only got 2 hours on the radio, but I'm doing a live stream after the show with Damon Bruce. Damon Bruce in the Bay Area, longtime sports talk host. He's one of the guys who got me into this YouTube thing to stream, and we're going to do something today at 2:30. So if you're following us on YouTube, JT the Brick YT and Damon Bruce, easy to follow us on YouTube, and you can watch us go back and forth, Bay Area. We're going to go through the NFL. We're going to go through the playoffs here, kind of what I want to do on this show a little bit more of here over the next couple of weeks. We're 25 days out from the Super Bowl. I think most of us want one thing is Kansas City not to be in the Super Bowl. Do we all agree on that? We're all on the same page there. We want the Raiders to get a coach and a GM and maybe a quarterback in the draft, but the big goal here is to get Kansas City done, off the board. Go beat Kansas City, get them out. I don't think Houston's going to do it, and this Baltimore team being a favorite in Buffalo is crazy. I got my Buffalo boys who I talk to several times a day. So I'm very in touch with Buffalo. Very in touch with Buffalo. The bitterness of the cold for that game is going to be different, not the snow. So the reports of the weather coming to Buffalo could be a game changer for that game. Could change both game plans. And that'll be in addition to Lamar, an advantage for him to run a little bit better. But Josh Allen can run too. Vinnie Bonsignore joins us from our morning show, Vegas Nation, the great insider. All right, Vinny, you're making a lot of news today. A lot of people have seen your tweet about Ben Johnson, maybe some momentum going on here. What can you tell us with your reporting?
Yeah, there's obviously still a long way for this to go, and there's going to be some really good candidates that interview over the next few days. But it just feels like this is based on my reporting. This is leaning in that direction, in the Ben Johnson direction. Now, I've learned the hard way that nothing surprises me anymore in the NFL and professional sports. But as of today, it feels like that's the direction that this might be headed.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And as you tweeted out, and you got a lot of interaction, a lot of momentum building for Ben Johnson and the Raiders. And let's talk about why that could happen. There is a report out of Detroit by the gentleman at The Athletic that Ben Johnson met Tom Brady for the first time last week before their game. So it's not like they know each other and have a deep history, but Tom Brady's different. Tom Brady's a person that everybody wants to meet, and you're going to take time out of your day, or if you're a coach, if you see him, to introduce yourself and meet him overall. And then for the virtual meeting for the Raiders to have with him, what can we suggest or assume maybe about Tom Brady building this kind of relationship with someone while he's broadcasting, this guy's coaching, and they did have that legal window already to talk?
Yeah, there was a 3-hour Zoom interview on Friday. Presumably, that's going to lead to an in-person interview when the time is right. And there's, like I said, there's rules and regulations that you have to adhere to for a coach that's currently coaching in the playoffs. All of that will be, above ground and above board, all of that. But I think talking to people around the NFL and asking what does Tom Brady represent to you from the outside? If you're looking outside, looking into the Raiders organization, if you're a young coach, what would he represent to you? Well, number one, championships and excellence. Somebody that, knows how to do it in terms of, or has at least seen it up close and personal in his previous stops, whether it was Tampa Bay and New England. And the synergy that's needed, and the top to bottom, everybody being aligned and rowing in the same direction. He's seen that up close and personal. So that's obviously something that's going to draw in candidates like a Ben Johnson. But on top of that, I think also the stability that he creates. I think that the message I'm sure that the Raiders are sending to any of these young coaches is we want this to happen as quickly as possible. Who doesn't? But there's also an understanding that to do it the right way, it's going to take time. You don't build things overnight. And it's interesting to me because I know a lot of people, some of the reaction is, wow, why would Ben Johnson, want to go to, let's say, the Raiders as opposed to a better situation, a seemingly better situation in Chicago with a young quarterback like Caleb Williams, or Jacksonville with a young quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. And I would submit that Ben Johnson went to one of the worst, rosters, organizations in the Detroit Lions as an assistant coach with Dan Campbell, and saw firsthand how good people making good decisions can change things relatively quickly. And they went through some bumps and bruises. Don't forget, was it one win, I think it was, in that first year or something along those lines. And then they didn't really turn the corner until year two. It was a terrible start in year two, and they finally started gathering some steam midway through. So he's seen that what looks like the worst possible situation can turn good pretty darn quick in Detroit. So if he's looking at the Las Vegas Raiders as, a big challenge, much like the Detroit Lions were a few years ago, well, he's living proof that doesn't have to be the worst in 2 years, right? So he's been through that kind of a challenge, which is why I would think that the Raiders aren't as bad as the Lions were just a couple of years ago. So what might look overly daunting to somebody else, for somebody like Ben Johnson, who's lived it and experienced it, it's not as daunting.
Vinnie Bonsignore is our guest. So we live in Vegas. I don't gamble, but gambling's big here, and everybody has to hedge. So if it's not Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll was in the room. Assuming that went well, and you got good contacts when it comes to Pete Carroll over the years, what happens if there's a time frame here and a waiting game going on, and Pete Carroll gets an offer, and all of a sudden he takes it? Because Pete Carroll now and Mike McCarthy are two veteran names here that are getting more and more interviews.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something that you're going to have to, understand that could be a possibility. And I would also think that, nothing can be officially offered or accepted until the appropriate time, per league rules. But I would imagine that, you're also trusting somebody if they're giving you enough good signals that if we can all wait it out here, everything is going to work out at the end of the day. That whether it's implied or just there's an understanding. It can't be official or anything like that. But I would think that both parties would have some sort of an understanding of, if we wait this thing out, good things are going to ultimately happen at the end. So that if you see somebody like a Pete Carroll take another job, you still feel pretty good about the situation.
Yes, Vinnie Bonsignore is our guest. So, Vinnie, what do you think about this cycle of the coaching carousel? I find it more fascinating now that Mike McCarthy was not renewed by Jerry Jones, and Deion's name's been out there, and I follow you on X, and you're dealing with fans who think Deion should be in Vegas or Deion this, Deion that. Well, there's a great opportunity for Deion to coach. I don't think he wants to coach Jacksonville. If he really wanted to coach, he'd demand Nashville because his son could go there and that'd be a perfect fit. And that's kind of a rebuild. They'd have to move another coach out, but I think they would for Deion. Now that Deion's name's included with Pete Carroll, Ben Johnson, Mike McCarthy, Aaron Glenn, I mean, there's 6 jobs out there. I just named 5 really good coaches.
Yeah, this is this feels like a really good cycle if you're a team that needs a good coach. I mean, you just Pete Carroll, that just says it all right there. I know he's 74 years old. We both know Pete Carroll. I'm not even worried about the age. It's a small consideration. But yeah, Aaron Glenn, I think, and it feels like, the New York Jets or the New Orleans Saints are a really good landing spot, for him. I think it feels like the Chicago Bears, if it's not going to be Ben Johnson, I feel like they're, and even with Ben Johnson in the picture, maybe they're leaning more toward that veteran kind of a coach, whether it's a Pete Carroll or a Mike McCarthy. They understand the commodity that they have and the asset that they have in Caleb Williams and the importance of not screwing that up and maybe getting somebody in there that they understand in terms of the leadership, doing it before, winning at a high level. Both Mike McCarthy and Pete Carroll certainly represent that. And, when you go back to the Dallas Cowboys, it's based on what in talking to some people, I think both sides wanted something to work, but they just couldn't come together on the length of the contract. I think there were some issues with pay for assistant coaches. They just weren't able to come together and come to an agreement. And now Mike McCarthy is a free agent and out there on the open market. I think he'll land on his feet. Now the Dallas Cowboys are a very interesting possibility, whether it's Deion Sanders and we read all that he and Jerry Jones have talked about that. No big surprise. Deion's from or lives in Texas, has a relationship with Jerry Jones, has played for the Cowboys, understands that landscape. Or maybe they turn to a Kellen Moore, who also has been in that building before. So a lot of different directions that could take as well.
All right, Vin, as we wrap it up, I wanted to touch on the quarterback situation because it's a delicate time now, and we're both broadcasting, and you're on a big morning show on the flagship, and more and more people say they don't have a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. Yeah, they do. We have Aiden O'Connell here in Vegas. He's a quarterback. He's not elite. He's not at the next level. And then I watched all these quarterbacks lose over the weekend. I'm a big Justin Herbert guy, talent-wise. I don't root for the Chargers, but I think he's a hell of a talent. We saw Baker Mayfield lose. I said on the record in this studio that he should have been the quarterback of the Raiders. It was easy to get Baker Mayfield, and they didn't get him. And Baker lost, and now Jaden Daniels is winning. And I don't think the Raiders had any chance of getting Jaden Daniels from all of our reporting. But the quarterback situation here is looming large. If it's Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll, whoever it is. And I'm reading mock drafts now that could have Shedeur dropping a 6th. Cam Ward going 1, Shedeur 6. Will you throw Travis Hunter in, a cornerback in the middle here? How important is this quarterback hunt coming up for the Raiders? You'll be at the Senior Bowl. You'll be at the Combine. Feels like they're going to get a quarterback here at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's they have to, just look at the disparity, between the teams that made the playoffs and the teams that didn't, number one. All right. And so quarterback plays a huge role in that. Now look at the disparity between the top of the playoff, food chain and the middle to, the lowest seed. And look at the disparity between the quarterbacks there. Just look at the quarterbacks that are still alive in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. I mean, we're talking about tremendous quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks in the league, quite frankly. And so there's definitely a pecking order. And you can't win in this league. You can't, and I'm talking about the highest level without a great quarterback. I know people will point to Trent Dilfer back in the day with the Baltimore Ravens. That took a historic Hall of Fame laden defense to carry that day. And by the way, the Baltimore Ravens moved on from Trent Dilfer immediately after that Super Bowl, trying to find a better quarterback. So could it happen? Yeah, but that was an unprecedented situation. Short of that, you really need a great quarterback to succeed in the NFL, and the Raiders understand that. And so whether it's this year or at some point down the road, they understand that they have to make a significant talent, leap at quarterback, because that's the most important position on the football field.
Thank you, Vinny. Tremendous work as always. And when there's breaking news, we're going to go to you first as always. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Have a great show.
Thank you, Vinnie Bonsignore. Got to get him in up here. We get him in every Wednesday. Brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Grab yourself a Tito's on the rocks, Tito's soda. Someone has Tito's in cran, a splash of cran, whatever you have. It's the best vodka. Tito's, the American success story. Tito's, proud partner of our show. As Vinny said, he is leaning towards Ben Johnson. He thinks momentum is being built. So when Vinny, I'm in this impression business a little bit, as my son is in my YouTube chat now. Welcome to my son. Vinny put out that tweet. And let me find this tweet about Vinny. There it is. A lot of more. He's got 879,000 views. Okay, he's going to get, this has only been up here, this tweet, for 2 hours or 3 hours. Okay, so for Vinny to put that out 3 hours ago, he's going to have 1 million views. We're in the business of impression and views and people listening. Okay, and now there's a streaming world that we're dealing with now. That's why I want people to watch the show. That's why I'm doing a live stream. That's why we're doing reels and all that, because it's part of evolving. If you're not evolving, you're dying. And there's a lot of dinosaurs in this business. I'm not one of them. And there's a lot of new people coming up trying to build their brand with clickbait. They don't have some of the resources that radio guys of 20 years or 10 years have got. So everybody's competing to get people to look at their stuff and to listen to their commentary. Mine is simple. When I have breaking news, I usually don't break it. If I hear something first, when someone dies or someone, a coach gets fired, I'm not the breaking news guy. That's Schefter. That's Ian Rappaport. And I don't compete at their level. They're unbelievable at that. But I got a lot of opinions, and I like to put my opinions out there. This is an opinion-based business that we're in. And now everybody's got an opinion on these coaches. We just don't know where they're going to go. So it's very rare in the industry for everyone in sports media, men and women, to be speculating this much about coaches. Oh, Deion's going to Dallas. No, he's not. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's staying in Colorado. But let's get it out there. Let's be the first insider to say what? Captain Obvious? Deion might be interested in Dallas? Mike McCarthy could be the Chicago guy because he beat Chicago for a decade. Okay, we know that's Captain Obvious stuff. No one's got any information that's different until one of the owners or the standing GMs who are still with these organizations start giving the insiders information. You got to remember, most of these teams are looking for two things, a GM and a coach. The Jaguars are not. I don't know why they kept Trent Baalke. The guy's been awful with Jacksonville the last 4 or 5 years. Brought in Urban Meyer, one of the biggest disasters we've ever seen at the NFL level. Urban Meyer's a hell of a college coach. Great, not good. Elite. But that disaster was there, and he's still the GM. And Jacksonville looks like a really good job. So people are not going to want the Jacksonville job because they're not going to want to work for Baalke. I think New Orleans is a great job. If Mickey Loomis can clear out the cap space, Aaron Glenn comes in there as a defensive-minded coach who plays there. Next thing you know, New Orleans, they got to figure out what they're going to do with Derek Carr. Most of us all love and respect Derek Carr. He's a good, faith-based guy. No reason not to like Derek Carr. You might be critical of him as a quarterback, but good guy. They might run him out of there. They might say, no, we're not going to give you this money. We're going to cut you, and we're going to go in a different direction. But I think the most important hire in the entire NFL, okay, and I'm biased to the Raiders, obviously, but the most important hire is Chicago. Chicago is an original NFL team, and they got an elite quarterback. He is elite. He is unbelievable, Caleb Williams. They have to fix him. They need an offensive head coach. Mike McCarthy's now available. He wasn't available a week ago. He is now. Mike McCarthy worked with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. Done deal. And they all had great years under Mike McCarthy. He's the guy. You got to fix Caleb Williams. You need someone to come in from the outside. Tell that kid we're going to treat you differently. You're going to be more accountable. You seem like a good kid, but we're going to lock you down in the offseason in regards to work prep. We're giving you more. You're going to work harder. That's a big job because Jaden Daniels is out of the gate, as I like to say, in a horse race, and he's about to lap Caleb Williams. So the best thing that happened to Mike McCarthy was Jerry Jones releasing him because the Cowboys are trending downward. And the Bears, if you get that new job, you got no pressure to win year one. But they'll be pressured because they got a good roster. And Mike McCarthy could turn that around quickly, very quickly. And then the other job is the Jet job. I mean, Rex Ryan begged for it. I would too. If you had a job open, I don't think I'd beg, but I'd tell everybody, hey, I'm better than the knucklehead you're putting on the radio with 3 years experience who can't do what I do. Well, we don't want you, JT. We would have wanted you 20 years ago. Well, you should want me now. And that's what all these people are doing. They're saying, I'm ready now. Pete Carroll at 73 is saying, I'm good to go. I had a year off. I'm rested. I'm invigorating. I have a plan. Hire me. And then Robert Saleh becomes a hot name now. Robert Saleh all of a sudden could be a really good name because the Jets ran him out too early. It's a decent coach. It looks like a lot of toxicity with Aaron Rodgers and what happened with the Jets. They made him the sacrificial lamb, and Robert Saleh could be the head coach of the Cowboys. I mean, just because you coach the Jets or the Jaguars doesn't mean you can't coach again. Just because you coached the Raiders in the past doesn't mean you can't coach again. It looks like Josh McDaniels is the front runner for Mike Vrabel. Sounds like a good hire. Josh McDaniels going back to New England to be the offensive coordinator. He forgot more about football than 80% of the offensive coordinators in this league. Wasn't a great head coach. Wasn't a good head coach here, but the guy's definitely going to land possibly in New England with a big job. Coaching carousel continues. Plus, we got Johnny Katz at the bottom of the hour as we pay tribute to Cookie Jar. Thank you, everybody. What's that? That's good. Well, either way, that's good. I am out of here. Thank you, man. What a good crowd today. Remember, in exactly 1 hour, I'll be on with Damon Bruce. Damon Bruce Plus, JT the Brick here. You'll get the alert. Come on in and join us if you can. Appreciate you.